Thanks to the Dominion lawsuit, we got to see a lot of text messages between different Fox News personalities and producers, executives as well, and they were illuminating. Very much so. Now, look, a lot of the ones that we took a look at were about election misinformation, how they felt about certain people. For example, Rudy Giuliani and the Kraken lady, Sidney Powell, and where she got some of her really whacked out ideas. Okay, so now, one of the text messages that is believed to have been in the proverbial nail in the coffin for Tucker Carlson's career at Fox News, and I say Fox News career because most certainly he's not going away. Now, let me give you the details on that. The New York Times first reported that Carlson had sent a message to producers following the January 6th Capitol riots. In this text message, he seemed to celebrate the beating up of an Antifa protester by a mob of MAGA guys. In fact, here's what it said. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching video of people fighting on the street in Washington. A group of Trump guys surrounded an Antifa kid and started pounding the living shit out of him. It was 3 against 1, at least. Jumping a guy like this is dishonorable, obviously. It's not how white men fight. I didn't know white men had a particular fighting style. Look, that's weirdo white nationalist rhetoric. Honestly. Honestly. Like, no, it's how cowards fight. And these guys, 3-on-1, obvious cowards. And Tucker Carlson using, again, obvious white nationalist rhetoric. We don't fight like that. White men don't fight. Dude, weird. Super weird, super racist. Okay. Now, it gets worse, though, going forward. Okay. He said, suddenly I found myself rooting for the mob against the man, hoping they'd hit him harder, kill him. I really wanted them to hurt the kid. I could taste it. Look, this man's cheering for violence, not just violence, but for murder. What, because he's an Antifa guy? Look, I don't condone violence. I certainly would never call for the beatings of MAGA guys. And I've spoke out against violence targeted towards people with different political persuasions. Okay. On the left, we're not supposed to engage in violence. Now, that's different from defending yourself, which I do believe you have a right to do if you have to. Now, this is not that situation. This guy's straight up being jumped by 3 MAGA guys. So now the message then went into Carlson having a bit of self-awareness for his desire to watch this kid get murdered. He said, quote, somewhere deep in my brain, an alarm went off. This isn't good for me. I'm becoming something I don't want to be. Really? Really? He said, the Antifa creep is a human being. Much as I despise what he says and does, much as I'm sure I'd hate him personally if I knew him, I shouldn't gloat over his suffering. I should be bothered by it. I should remember that somewhere, somebody probably loves this kid and would be crushed if he was killed. If I don't care about those things, if I reduce people to their politics, how am I better than he is? So remember, this is him saying, I should remember. I should. Like he's trying to convince himself not to want to be, like, not to feel this bloodlust at watching a kid get beaten up. Wow. Wow. Again, this is pretty sociopathic. He has to remind himself that, oh, yeah, I shouldn't be cheering on the beatings and possible death of someone that I don't agree with based on their politics. Oh, yeah, it turns out people who disagree with me are actual human beings. Yes, they are. Look, I don't like MAGA guys and their beliefs. Do I want to see them hurt? No. I don't want to see anybody hurt. I don't want to see MAGA guys hurt anybody else. I'm not interested in that. Political violence is not a good thing. It's not something that I condone. What I do believe is in things that will help every person, every human being. Healthcare, better jobs, higher pay, homes, better environment. I think that, by the way, if we had a society that treated people better, that we weren't at each other's throats for the basics to survive, there wouldn't be as many people buying into weirdo racist conspiracy theories. They're taking our gerbs. There wouldn't be any of that. And I think in that case, for those people that it applies to, and I understand that there's a lot of Trump supporters that it doesn't apply to, people who are very, very well off financially, that are certainly not, members of the working class that buy into this stuff. But for those others, it comes down to resources. People like Tucker Carlson, Fox News, have the resources. They want to keep the resources. Simple as that. Now, that said, I think Fox News hosts, most of them, play a character. They're not being honest about how they actually feel. They say these things and they fire up their base so that, number one, they tune in, of course. But mainly, the goal is to get them to vote for Republicans. Republican politicians. Why is that? Well, Republican politicians will cut taxes for the donors. I mean, that's really all it is. Now, the thing is, cutting taxes for the rich, most people don't actually agree with that. It's not a popular issue. And so you have to bring in things like, let's talk about immigration, right? Oh, the immigrants, they're coming over. They're taking your jobs. They're taking all the welfare. They're doing all these terrible things. Look at them. Look, we got another caravan coming across the border. Be careful. Hide your wife. Hide your kids. MS-13's coming for you. It's really not the reality. The vast majority of immigrants, of course, are just here that are generally asylum seekers. And the people who do commit crimes end up getting deported, arrested, all that stuff. But again, they do that, the immigration talk, they bring up the culture war issues, and of course, they'll also do white nationalist talking points. And they'll use conspiracy theories, of course. And we've seen that certainly in the last few years. But see, Tucker Carlson, though, he was never playing a part. No, he's a general white nationalist. That's who he is. And he's actually one of the most overt examples of white nationalist. And it's not that fact that spooked Fox News. It's the openness of it. It's the desire to see violence against his political opponents. It's the fact that it would look bad for the network. It would reflect badly. And why do I say that? Well, it turns out that the board saw this message from Discovery and thought, boy, if this gets aired during the trial, this is going to look really, really bad for us. If Tucker Carlson was put on the stand in a public trial and had to explain this text message, if it was allowed to be used, well, that could create, in their words, a sensational and damaging moment that would raise broader questions about the company itself. Fox lawyers had produced the text as part of the discovery process and were involved in redacting it as well. So they knew about this, and so they knew how potentially damaging it could be and did not want it to get out into the public. Carlson, again, had been asked about this during his own deposition, according to several people who have read the unredacted transcripts of said deposition. And I think the fact that it had been brought up just before, they were set to go to trial, this and all the other things that were revealed during the trial with Dominion, that might be one of the reasons why they decided to do a last-minute settlement. having this out would run counter to a lot of the things they claim. Tucker Carlson was one of the biggest names, one of the biggest, draws of viewers on Fox News. 3 million people would tune into him each night. To have somebody outed as someone who celebrates violence, it would run counter to their claims of we're against violence. Oh, it's the left. It's the Antifa. They hate your fellow Americans. They want to see this country destroyed. They hate America. They hate everything it stands for. No. Tucker Carlson is cheering on violence. And then for a brief moment, felt kind of gross about it. But then continued. And then there's, of course, the projection. If I reduce people to their politics, how am I better than he is? Speaking of that Antifa kid. We're not the ones that are reducing people to their politics. And besides, when it comes to what they consider to be political issues, are actually civil rights issues. Civil rights are civil rights, end of story. Trans rights are civil rights. Things like that Carlson would harp on every single night as a culture war issue. But look, overall, these texts are not a surprise. It shouldn't be surprising. But this is a glimpse into who Tucker Carlson really is. The once top-rated host on the largest cable news network in the country. With a massive, massive platform. If these text messages do not disturb you, then I'm not sure what will.